Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Dram from Jocu playing cards. Over 1,000 years ago, monks wandered across Europe, bringing not just religion, but also the art of distillation. In the chilly, damp monasteries of Scotland, these monks lacked the grapes of their southern brethren, so they looked to what was plentiful, barley. They began fermenting mashed barley, and then something magical happened. Through the distillation process, they coaxed out a potent brew that they called Ishkabaha, the Gaelic words for water of life. Now, legend tells of a Scottish farmer, Angus MacDougall, who befriended a traveling monk. The monk, weary from his journey, shared a sip of his Ishkabaha, promising that it held medicinal properties. Now, Angus was a skeptical man, and he scoffed at the notion. But when a fierce storm swept through his fields one night, Angus, chilled to the bone, remembered the monk's fiery potion. He snuck a taste from a hidden flask that the monk had gifted him, and a warmth unlike anything he'd known spread through him. News of Angus's discovery spread like wildfire. Soon, every hearth in Scotland was flickering with the production of this water of life. The spirit, rough and unaged, became a staple, enjoyed for its warmth, supposed medicinal properties, and of course, its ability to lighten the mood. Now, Scotland proudly boasts a centuries-long heritage in whiskey production that continues to this day, and it's that legacy that is celebrated in the latest deck from Jocu, Dram. Named for the traditional word to denote a small shot of the spirit, this deck is the spiritual successor to the hops and barley decks that celebrated the art of beer. But we're on to the harder stuff now, so let's check out Dram. All right, so there are multiple versions of the deck, and we're going to get a chance to look at the limited version of the deck that we have here. This one actually comes in a 2-box set. So this is the wooden box that they come in. It's a really cool box and reminiscent of the one that they did for hops and barley as well. And if you open it up, slide the lid off, you can see packed in straw here, you get the 2-deck set. So we have the copper version here, and then we also have the gold version with the darker tuck. And then inside, inlaid in the cutouts here for the deck, you get the actual numbering of the box set. So this is number 20 of the 200 box set. The other side even includes a little poem inspired by the Scottish whiskey. Now, there's actually 2 different versions of the box if you're interested in that. This is the standard version, and then there's also the limited version. This one is even lower quantity, just 125 of these, I believe. And this one was made specifically for Inner Circle members. So this is their monthly subscription. You get a chance to get an exclusive version of the limited box. And in my opinion, the nicer version of the 2. But both of them are great. Let's take a look at the decks themselves, but definitely check out the link in the description if you're interested in finding out more about the Inner Circle. But all that said, let's get into the decks themselves. So we'll get a chance to look at both of them. Very similar between the 2 of them, but you do get some color changes and things like that. So we'll get a chance to look at the differences between them. But we'll start off with this really unique tuck box. These are done by Bashero & Newton. The tuck boxes they do are the best in the world, in my opinion, and really unique effect that they were able to achieve on this one with their embossing. So the combination of embossing and foiling, super clean on this one, but the embossing, you can see these pits that are put all over the deck, made to look like a wood grain pattern. And as you turn to the sides, you'll even see some parts where you get the very clear grain of the wood running through. It's a really fantastic effect, and mixed with that dark brown color, gives just a unique texture and look to the overall tuck box. Really fantastic. And then the foil here highlights the overall design of the deck. So you have Dram in nice big bold letters up there at the top. And then at the bottom, kind of a harvest scene, including this at the center. This is a Glencairn glass. This is a traditional glass that's used for drinking whiskey. You can see a little splash of whiskey there in the middle. It's actually a fairly recent invention. There's a guy by the name of Raymond Davidson. He was the founder of Glencairn Crystal. And back in the 80s, he conceived the idea of this glass here with a curved shape that supposedly helps to amplify the aromas of the whiskey. But it wasn't until 20 years later in 2001 that his sons unearthed the design. And then they worked with some master blenders from a few major Scottish whiskey companies to perfect the design that you see here. And then it finally hit the market. So this has kind of quickly become a traditional glass that's ideal for drinking whiskey. Interesting little fact there. But anyway, you get the mixture of the, you can see the barley sprigs out here on the side. Of course, that's the main product that's used to make whiskey, and then the barrels in the back as well. Beautiful copper foil on this one, mixed against that dark brown, just really nice. Dram written on one side of the tuck, and then made in Europe on the other. You get your ad copy, of course, mentions Bashero and Newton for the tucks and Cardamundi for the cards. And then the top here, Dram once again. Back has a foiled version of the back design of the cards, which we'll look at in a second, but beautiful foil work yet again. And as you open it up, you get some small little foil embellishments, and of course, a continuation of that really great wood grain finish. And then some copper foil on the interior of the tuck as well, giving you a nice design that extends all the way down the tuck box and includes all sorts of artifacts of the whiskey making process. Here, these flowers on the side, these are actually corn flowers. These are not used in whiskey production, at least not that I know of, but these are a weed that are often found growing in barley fields. And so they even get an addition in the tuck. All right, but now on to the cards. And you may have seen this as I opened it up, but these are a gilded deck. So beautiful copper gilding on this one. Nice match to the tuck box overall. Really love the gilding. This is only on the limited versions of the deck. There is a standard version you can get that doesn't have the gilding. And then the back design. And this is a really striking back design, in large part because of the use of this super bright copper metallic ink all the way through. I'm hoping this shows up on camera, but this is some of the shiniest and most reflective metallic ink that I've ever seen on a deck. Maybe because the whole thing's done in metallics, not really sure. Maybe there's something special about the ink, but this one, really, really bright color to it. And of course, you get the Glencairn glass there in the center with the splash of whiskey, the dram of whiskey, front and center is the main design element. And then everything laid out here to give you a very classic feeling design. Lots of little filigree around the edge, and then bits of barley, as well as more of those corn flowers forming up, just kind of filling in all that extra space. It's a really classical feeling design and very fitting for what's meant to be a fairly usable deck. They wanted to design a deck that could be perfect for gameplay. And so that back design, I think, does nothing to distract you from your game overall. And just a really great bit of artwork there, really nicely done. All right, now on to the faces, and we start with the Jokers. Now, the artwork in this one, like all Jocu decks, done by Alessandra Gagliano. She is a fantastic character artist. I love the unique style. She always has this really kind of ropey hair. That's one of her signature elements. But beautiful illustration on these two. The two Jokers, a male and a female, kind of classic Scottish character. So the male here wearing the classic kilt, and then has the fly plaid there slung over his shoulder with that tartan pattern. And of course, he's sort of romancing the dram of whiskey that he has in his hand there. Beautiful use of the metallic inks. And here's some of that gold metallic ink, which you can see also super shiny and definitely stands out. Mixed in with the classic reds and greens of Scotland. Just gives you a really striking pose there overall. And then the female, equally striking. This one with the shining gold dress, and then the stalks of barley there in her hands, also glowing in gold. And yeah, very striking red hair, along with that fly plaid there over her shoulder. So there's your two Jokers. And then a couple of other extra cards. So the first one here is a map of Scotland, and it shows the 5 sort of whiskey producing regions of Scotland. So you get the Speyside here. This is actually the largest region. Maybe that's why it's done in gold here, but the most of their whiskey is produced right here in Speyside. But you'll see it all over the place. You've got the Highlands, the Lowlands, Campbelltown, Islay, and the Islands up here at the top. Really cool little map here. Love the little mixture of colors that's used in here. And yet another celebration of that heritage of whiskey making. And then you get the ad card here, mentions the Scotch, or the Scotch whiskey that is produced in Scotland, and some of the other inspirations of the deck. And of course, gives a nod to Alessandra Gagliano, who did the artwork, and the concept by her partner, Anthony Holt. So little ad card there as the final card. All right, now on to the deck. All right, so starting with the Ace of Spades, have the big, bold spade pip here in the center. Of course, the dram of whiskey and the Glencairn glass there in the middle. And then the flowers growing up around the outside, the mixture of barley and corn flour, kind of producing that really kind of flowing design around the edges. Name of the deck at the bottom, Dram. Again, making use of that gold metallic ink just gives you a great shine. And then a super large and bold pip and index there in the corner. Like I said, this is meant to be more of a player's deck, and so they went with a very easy to read index in the corner, which I like. Again, if you're using this as a player's deck, you want that to be nice and easy to read. And as you go through the number cards, you'll see these are kept relatively simple as well. Fairly standard pips, nice and large. So if you're using this for gameplay, you're not going to have any issues whatsoever. Kind of a brighter, almost oranger sort of red to the red cards, and then the classic black for the black cards. But everything on here, very familiar towards your standard deck. Nothing too out of the ordinary on this one that would be distracting. And then we get into the court cards. And the court cards as well are kept very much in the standard style. These are definitely going to be reminiscent of your bicycle or your Arco courts. Very, very familiar styling, but obviously been redrawn a little bit. You get some nice color here. Of course, the classic green and red of Ireland, and then mixed in with the, or Scotland, sorry, mixed in with the gold metallic inks. Love the look of this one. For a fairly standard court, I think it gives it a nice look overall. As you go through the rest of them, same kind of color scheme used throughout the court cards, but nice look, again, for a standard deck. Few little touches to make it feel certainly a little bit more, more accustomed to some degree, but still standard enough to be perfect for your regular poker game. So that is the copper version of the deck. Gold version of the deck, very, very similar, but you do get some color changes. Obviously, that gold foil used on the tuck box. Same wood grain pattern, but this time with a black tuck box overall. I like both versions. I probably like the copper version a little bit more, but that black and gold still a very classic combination. And as you open up the cards, of course, you're treated to gold interior foil as well. And this one features the gold gilding on it, which again, I prefer the copper, but gold is definitely classic. And gold metallic inks, which these gold metallics I really, really like. So the gold metallic ink as the back sign. Rest of the deck on the faces is pretty much the same as we saw with the copper version of the deck. Both versions on the faces feature the gold foil as opposed to copper. It's really just the back design, the gilding color, and of course the tuck box that are going to differentiate between the two decks. So there is the gold version of the deck. Just kind of a quick look at that one. And that is it. Those are the two limited versions of Dram. Now, if you don't like the gilded decks, you want to get a more standard deck, they do offer a couple of standard versions as well, both a copper and gold. This is kind of what the design looks like. It's a little bit more of a plain tuck. It does feature a matte finish to it overall, beautiful embossing and foiling, but none of that wood grain texture. But you do get some nice, just sort of natural texture to the paper on this one. So if you're interested in a more standard version of the deck, this one's going to be the one that you'll want to check out. Obviously comes with more standard pricing, doesn't come in that 2-box set, and is not a gilded version of the deck. So maybe an even slightly more functional version of the deck. But anyway, that is the look at Dram. Hope you enjoyed this one. I love this one as just a regular poker night deck, especially the non-gilded version of it. Really kind of going to bring a little bit of extra life to it. And obviously a fitting theme if you're, out with your friends and having a couple of drinks or something like that. A really great mix to have a deck with this sort of inspiration. Really fantastic deck, as always, from Jocu. I love the inspiration and the simplicity that they bring to their decks, and this one is no exception. A really fitting deck to add to their line. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.